I actually thought Jim Flaherty sort of stepped in it this week when he sort of dared the opposition MPs to just read the spring budget because it was all in there and it was an easy thing in that regard. The second budget bill, contains a few things that weren't in that original budget. Navigable waters, interesting little wrinkles about the Employment Insurance Board and other things. And by challenging the opposition MPs to go back and look at that spring budget and compare, he's just invited, several days, maybe weeks of criticism over new developments that are in the budget bill. And it only helps the opposition make that argument that, you can't just cram a bunch of things into a budget bill and expect it to be properly reviewed by Parliament.
There's two ways of looking at the bill. The content, do Canadians really care about stuff like changes to the regulation of navigable waters? And then there's the procedure, do they care about how Parliament functions? Back in 2010, the Tories briefly took a hit in the polls over prorogation, shutting down Parliament for no real reason. And it looked then like maybe the population was waking up to this sort of thing, but that was short-lived. So the question now is whether the sort of reaction that sometimes comes when people feel the mechanism of democracy isn't working properly can be sustained to matter during an election campaign. And I have to say, I think that's probably a long shot given the history of this sort of controversy.
It's an independent tribunal, a people's tribunal looking at one of the worst massacres of political prisoners in the 20th century. Some 20,000 people were killed in Iran during the 1980s. And the relatives of the victims, many of the relatives of the victims of these crimes, have convened an independent tribunal. In other words, it doesn't have international legal authority. What they're hoping to do is put on record the crimes that took place and hopefully have some sort of moral authority to show the Iranians that their crimes that have been committed in the past and perhaps might be ongoing will be recorded and will be noted if the regime ever falls. So they've had some sessions already. They've received witness testimonies in London in June, and the final session will take place in The Hague next week.